This video is being brought to you by Cutting Edge Gamer. If you upgrade graphics cards often, Cutting Edge Gamer is the perfect option for you. Lease the newest graphics cards on the market, such as Nvidia's RTX 20 series, for a low monthly payment. Click the affiliate link below in the description to find out more. Skip it up and that up. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is the newest installment in the Tomb Raider reboot series, came out mid-September of this year, and compared to the other two installments in the Tomb Raider reboot series, we'll call it, it's not being received as well. I mean, on Metacritic, it doesn't have a bad score. For the PlayStation 4, it's sitting at a 76. For the PC, it has an average Metacritic score of 77, and for the Xbox One, it has an average Metacritic score of 83. So it's not a poorly received game, but both fans of the series and critics say, yeah, Shadow of the Tomb Raider isn't as good as its two predecessors. So with reviews saying that the newest installment in the Tomb Raider series doesn't really hold a candle to the two previous games, people weren't as interested, and the sales are kind of showing this. Physical sales of Shadow of the Tomb Raider were down 70% compared to the 2013 reboot of the series. Now, obviously, there's other factors there. Digital distribution wasn't as big of a thing back in 2013, so I'm sure that's a fairly substantial factor as to why physical sales of the newest Tomb Raider game are down compared to the 2013 reboot. But according to Eurogamer, and these are UK sales figures that I'm giving you right now, I should make sure I note that and don't forget to say it, Shadow of the Tomb Raider only had a slightly better launch week than Rise of the Tomb Raider, which initially only came out for the Xbox One back in 2015. So that's still not painting a rosy picture for the newest installment in the Tomb Raider series sales-wise. Now again, these sales figures only count physical copies and only UK sales numbers. And it comes from a company called ChartTrack. I just want to make sure that's all out there. But actions speak louder than words, and the game can't be selling that well worldwide because on Steam, they're actually having a huge sale already, just barely a month after the game launched. And if you want to just pick up Shadow of the Tomb Raider with no DLC, you can actually get it for 34% off right now, which is a big deal for a game that basically just came out. And if you want to get the DLC bundle of Shadow of the Tomb Raider on Steam, you could get it basically for half off. Or, excuse me, let me be totally technically correct here, 47% off. It usually goes for $110 on Steam or $109.96. You can now pick up the game and all the DLC for $58.78 on Steam. And because the game is being so heavily discounted, basically right after it came out, there's a lot of early adopters right now that are really, really angry. I'm pissed! As a matter of fact, if you look at the Steam page for Shadow of the Tomb Raider, a lot of the recent reviews are negative, and here's what some of them have to say. Pre-purchased the Croft Edition, which included the Season Pass. None of the Season Pass content has been released, and now the Season Pass is on huge discount. I don't know what to say. It just felt weird. The next post here, and this person who reviewed Shadow of the Tomb Raider has about 35 hours invested in the game, so they kind of know what they're talking about. And this is their negative review. Unengaging, half-written story with no real consideration, incredible graphics and decent challenges, bad dialogue, mediocre voice acting. It tries so hard to be so much more epic than it is. Also, I was prompted to leave a negative review because I was pissed off that they stuck it on sale so soon after release. I hate you, Squeenix, meaning Square Enix. And the negative reviews, if you look, go on and on and on with a bunch of people saying similar things, that they're pissed off that a game they just bought a little over a month ago is now about 50% off. Well, it's 50% off almost if you get the game with all the DLC. That must be really frustrating. That's a lot of extra money that early adopters spent on this game that if they waited just 5 weeks, around 5 weeks, they could have basically gotten the game with all the DLC for half off. And I don't blame them for being angry. I really, really don't. Now, from a business perspective, do I understand why Square Enix actually discounted the game if it's not selling well? Of course, you want to stimulate sales. You want to at least recover losses if the game is going to end up being a loss for you because you're not seeing the numbers you needed to see to make Shadow of the Tomb Raider profitable. But Squeenix, that's not the early adopters' problem. You betrayed a lot of people. You ripped off a lot of people. And I understand, like I said before, why they're angry. And you need to make this right for the early adopters of Shadow of the Tomb Raider that had faith in the Tomb Raider franchise, who maybe, if you read some of the reviews, even before this massive sale of the game happened, people weren't super thrilled with it. They were saying the combat was off. They were saying there's too much stealth. They were saying it just felt disjointed compared to the other Tomb Raider games. And these people paid full price when this game first launched. You know what you need to do right now, Square Enix, even though I know you're not going to? You need to refund the money. You need to refund the difference to the early adopters so they could also get this game on sale. Maybe give them a Steam credit. If they got it through Steam, I'm sure you could track it that way. If they purchased the game from different services like a CD Keyhouse service or whatever, I understand why you can't do that. But if they got it directly through Steam, you should make right with those early adopters of Shadow of the Tomb Raider on Steam and give them a credit. Don't leave your consumer feeling jilted, especially in the flooded video games industry where there is a ton of competition, because people don't forget things like this. Also, too, what's happening with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the entire games industry needs to learn a lesson and stop with this goddamn fourth quarter crunch. The fourth quarter in the games industry is from October to December, and every single developer and their mother floods the retail market with a whole bunch of games. And what they don't understand is, I get it, it's the holiday season, it's Christmas, they know people are buying gifts, and they think that's when they'll sell the most games. But it's illogical now because there's so many AAA games that come out from October to December, and people can't afford all of them. I've talked about this before. Say there's 10 AAA games that come out during the fourth quarter crunch, and there's more than that, but let's be conservative and say there's 10 major games that come out. Now, not talking any special editions where you buy DLC. I'm talking you buy the plain Jane $60 game. What's 60 times 10? That's $600. Now, if you add in tax in my area is about $8.25. You're looking at an extra $50. So if you want to go out and buy those 10 games, those 10 AAA quote unquote must-have games, you need to plop down $650, which for many people is their rent. And hell, in certain places, it could be rent and the electric bill. People don't have that kind of money to plop down on a whole bunch of games. Just because it's the holiday season doesn't mean they can go, oh, gee, I'm just going to go buy almost a dozen games for my son or daughter or husband or wife. What these game developers and publishers don't realize is that people just don't buy video games during the holiday season. They buy other gifts. They have other obligations. And just because it's the holiday season doesn't mean people could stop paying their mortgage or their rent or their electric bill. So they have other financial obligations and other gifts to buy for people. So at most, the average person, I would say, could maybe buy 1 to 3 AAA games. And honestly, I think 3 is 10 on the high side. I'm thinking maybe 1 or 2 games at most. So this rush to get all of these games out during the holiday season is just dumb, unrealistic, and is not beneficial to these developers and publishers. If anything, they should hold some games off for like early next year, like February, March, and April, when it's slower and people have more spending cash due to the holiday season being over. This fourth quarter crunch needs to die in a fire. It's stupid and it just doesn't work anymore. I can almost assure you, if Square Enix decided to hold off the launch of Shadow of the Tomb Raider until January or February of 2019, the game would have sold better, even with mediocre review scores, because retail stores would be flooded with brand new AAA games, so there'd be less to choose from, and more people would be willing to pluck down cash on a mediocre Tomb Raider game. It's just common sense. So the bottom line is this. Even though I may pick up Shadow of the Tomb Raider now for the heavily discounted price due to the fact that I got one of those newfangled NVIDIA 20 series cards, the RTX cards that actually handle ray tracing, and the new Shadow of the Tomb Raider game has ray tracing features built into it. Companies, when they heavily discount games due to the fact that they're not selling well, need to make right with early adopters. It's not fair that people spent almost double the price on Shadow of the Tomb Raider with DLC than customers would spend now just about a month after the game came out. And other developers out there should take this as a lesson what's happening with Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Square Enix. Don't release your game during the fourth quarter when there's a billion other games coming out. I understand investors are chomping at the bit and they want to get those holiday sales numbers in, but if the market's flooded, even if your game is critically acclaimed, it still may not sell well. We've seen it before, and I'm sure it's going to happen again. You're better off waiting when there's less options out there than trying to release your game when the market is oversaturated with new AAA titles, because it may just get lost in the shuffle, and we see it all the time. This is Rich of Review Tech USA signing out. Have a good one.